This week in the news, Denuvo bypassed, Sony goes always online, Steam controller released, and more on Old Man Rages at the news. Before we get into the news, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy the content. We're starting off this week with Denuvo being bypassed. The piracy community has some bragging rights because all of the non-VR games that have Denuvo have a bypass. Mind you, I subscribe to the Gabe Newell school of thought about piracy. Piracy is a service problem, and this next bit goes without saying, but I don't condone piracy in any way, shape, or form. For those who don't know how this was done, well, it's simple. They used the hypervisor bypass, which basically, for all intents and purposes, sits below the kernel layer, or as some of you might know it as ring -1. And what it does is basically feeds Denuvo with false information whenever there's a check, and to get it running, you need to disable driver signature enforcement. Now, it's simple, but this method is very risky because you're trusting a random person's code that runs on the core of your operating system, which, wouldn't say that's a smart idea. Now, yes, this is the most convenient solution for pirates since it allows for easier access to the game. Even PC Gamers N mentioned how Pragmata got bypassed 2 days before the game itself got launched, so, you know. Now, since the whole piracy and anti-piracy war is basically a cat and mouse game, Denuvo did respond to this method. For games published by 2K, and specifically 2K25, 2K26, and Marvel's Midnight Suns, there is a required regular DRM check with an online server every 2 weeks. Not only that, but Erdetto, the company behind Denuvo, also made a statement. We've already worked on updated security versions for games impacted by hypervisor bypasses. For players, performance will not be compromised by these strengthened security measures. Let's hope that those measures don't impact performance anymore. Let's be real here, Denuvo uses kernel level access, aka ring 0, and I'll be perfectly honest, I don't trust it as far as I can throw it. And I also have zero expectations that they'll get this fixed without a performance hit. Then again, it's just the expectations of some random idiot on the internet. It's not like that will happen now, right? In other news, The Blood of Dawnwalker has an official release date. It's set to release on the 3rd of September with a price tag of €70. That's quite a steep price. Also, the PC system requirements were announced, with them also adding a note in the bottom left that the requirements were measured with no upscalers and no frame gen. But DLSS and FSR will be supported and can be used to improve performance. Now, I'm curious if the game director's confidence, the one that we covered a few episodes ago, will stay there once the game releases, or if Denuvo gets at it last minute. Only time will tell. And now for stupid decisions. Nintendo takes down a National Geographic style Pokemon YouTube channel. Not surprising. Shitty moves from Craptendo. Now, this channel was ran by Elias, who said he received dozens of copyright strikes on his YouTube channel, claiming that his fan-made animations infringe on Nintendo's characters and imagery. Elias did say he downloaded his stuff and has all the videos, so there is at least an archive, but it doesn't resolve the fact that he won't be able to post them. He even confirmed that he only used audios from the franchise, which is usually less than 3 seconds. And last time I checked, that falls under fair use. Now, all of this information came from his video, so if you want to hear him talk more about it, go watch his video. So, remember last week how we talked about the Assassin's Creed X's director departing midway through development? This week, the development team lost 50 more developers. Those 50 developers were moved from Hex to Ubisoft's Interproject team, which is for developers who are not assigned to a project. Yeesh! It doesn't look good for the game now, does it? And just as if Ubisoft couldn't let things slide with just that this week, they are also introducing new state of residence if you live in the USA. If it isn't filled, it will automatically be filled regardless of your consent. And what it will be filled with? Well, that will be the location of the most recent connection to their servers. They also claim that the state of residence will not be used for advertisement or marketing purposes, but I wouldn't really trust them to not do that. I mean, it's Ubisoft we're talking about. They'll most likely do this on the down low, and then when they get discovered, they're gonna be like, we didn't know, or some other shit like that. Yeah, please. Ubisoft and not making bad decisions. What's next? Nintendo not suing somebody called Mario in Italy or something? And continuing the trend of bad choices this week, Sony added DRM checks to PlayStation 5 games. This was first spotted by the game preservation source Does It Play. All new PlayStation Network purchases now have a 30-day validation cooldown. Not only that, but one of MBG's viewers contacted PlayStation support about a 30-day DRM, and the response they got made it sound like it was not a mistake or a bug, but intentional. Now, thankfully I don't have speculated on this, since Sony did confirm that this is just a one-time check to confirm the license. IGN even points out this is probably to prevent anyone from getting a refund for a game, then taking their system offline to continue using the game without a valid license. Now, did Sony not announcing this earlier made it look like they were going full Xbox One there for a moment? Yes, it did. Are we gonna have a shit show with the 30-day validation if something goes wrong? Most likely. Will any of this happen? Only time will tell. And speak of the devil, Xbox's revenue is apparently sinking. Yep, who could have seen that coming? Xbox's hardware tumbled, with the company revealing a 33% decline as part of its earning reports that were released last Wednesday. Alongside that, there was a 5% drop in content and services. Now, think about it. 5% doesn't sound that bad until you realize Microsoft is working with millions, so yeah, it's gonna be a noticeable 5%. Now, the new CEO still hasn't given up though, since she said, and I quote, "When it comes to our consumer business, we are doing the fundamental work required to win back fans and strengthen engagement across Windows, Xbox, Bing, and Edge. In the near term, we are focused on fundamentals, prioritizing quality, and serving our core users better." Imagine using Bing and Edge. Kind of time-traveling shenanigans is happening here. Anyways, jokes aside, if she does manage to get back the fans they lost with the Xbox pivots, then good for them, but that is still a big if. And we have another case of stupidity on our hands this week, because localizers did a terrible job on a game. Terrible is an understatement, mind you. The game in question is Union Syndrome, and the localization was so bad that the creator had to make a machine-translated post addressing the localization, in which he stated, "We are aware that many players, especially those enjoying the game primarily in English, have raised concerns about the quality of the localization. The comments have been shared throughout Steam reviews and the community hub, as well as on X, YouTube trailer comments, Discord, and other platforms. While it is difficult to review every single message in detail, I am reading as many of your comments as possible. The development on this title was very fast, and some of you have noticed there are still some places in the English version that represent old versions of the Japanese text or include display issues regarding Kaiomoji and cutoff lines. We are now working on looking into these. Also, based on your feedback, I recognize that the English translation requires some revisions. As a first step, we're currently discussing and addressing the text shown in the images below. And the dev proceeded to show these translations. Yeah, they aren't looking good. Then again, the translation company that was hired is called Dragon Baby. Yeah, two things here. For obvious reasons, don't send any hate their way. It's not worth it in any way, shape, or form. I mean, if you do, they're just gonna play the victim card as usual and whine and whine and whine like basically any moron that has baby in the company's name that doesn't have anything to do with baby products. And two, good on the dev for actually, addressing this and working on it. Shouldn't have hired them in the first place, but hey, if you don't speak English, it's kinda hard figuring out what the other side does. Anyways, if you're curious what exactly got translated, the developer compiled some of the translations in this patch note. God, what the fuck were the translators smoking to make half of these translations? Wait, there's another patch note revising the English translation again? For the love of everything that's holy, why are these people trying to invade the hobbies of normal people? If you want to be weird in a padded room. Jesus Christ. And in some good news this week, the Steam controller got leaked. Now, the leak itself came from a hidden article by the Japanese gaming outlet 4Gamer, where it said that the Steam controller will release on the 4th of May, and at the time it wasn't confirmed by Valve. Now the funny part of all of this is that Eurogamer published the article on the 27th of April, which is, ironically enough, the same day Valve released the official overview and quick starter guides for the controller. They also confirmed in that video the release date. The price of the controller is also gonna be 99 euros or 99 USD. Now, that's quite expensive for a controller. If you're looking for something cheap, it's not gonna be it, but considering some controllers go for over 200 euros and the technology the Steam controller packs, 100 euros for technology that, well, can tango with 200 euro priced controllers is, I'd say, a steal. If you want to know more in depth about all of this, Gamers Nexus also made a review of it. I would strongly suggest before buying anything, checking reviews for the product, especially if you can find them from people who you trust. So, if you trust somebody else aside from Gamers Nexus, go watch their video. If not, watch Gamers Nexus video. I'll have that in the sources. Now, aside from that, back in 2018, Gabe Newell was enthusiastically supporting OpenAI, donating as much as $20 million to it. Now, if you were in the Dota scene around that time, you might remember the OpenAI match versus Pro Gamers at the International, then the subsequent one. Yeah, apparently that and his support went hand in hand. Now, Gabe's donation was listed on the OpenAI website in 2018, but the details were not shown until a court submission titled Undisputed Facts listed contributors, with Gabe being the second largest, listing at exactly $20,008,279. Am I surprised, considering I was there watching the TI when the OpenAI bots went toe-to-toe with pro gamers? No. Am I gonna be worried about AI flooding Steam because of this? I mean, there's a lot of slop that needs to be cleaned from Steam, but so far I don't see and I don't really think anything like that will happen. Could be wrong. Only time will tell. And to wrap the week up, a bunch of quickfire news. Windrose managed to sell 1.5 million copies on the 30th of April. Damn, I was pretty close. just 500,000 copies off. And in other news, Battlefield 6 for some reason allows players to pre-order battle passes. Mind you, this isn't set up for convenience. Players don't even know what's in the battle pass itself since it was revealed on the 12th of May. You don't even get a discount or anything. You pay a standard price for the product that you don't even know what it contains. The only thing you get from the pre-purchase is the Verdant L110 weapons package with 2-tier skips. Additionally, the Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition is receiving bug fixes, performance and gameplay patches, and the owners of the original version received the Choice Edition for free across all platforms. So, the update on the 30th of April is supposed to be a test for a release pipeline and fix a few issues in the game. The second patch will bring performance fixes, lighting changes, and a new feature, grenades. Not only that, but the original game will get delisted on the 27th of May, and anyone who had the game before that will get the Spacer's Choice Edition for free. A Mass Effect voice actor blames EA for the failure of Andromeda. To quote him, I think like many, the game got a bum rap. It was done dirty by publisher, expecting too much from it, not being fully cooked, forced out the door too early, forced to use corporate shiny new engine when many of the team didn't know how to work with it, and it was not suited to the storytelling part of the game. Alright, let's assume that everything he said is true. Why the fuck didn't you say anything when it was relevant? Sure, you can scream that the atmosphere was toxic and you can blame these quote chuds for the game's failure, but nothing will change the fact that if people don't like a game, they won't talk about it in a positive light. If the game was good in the first place, sane people wouldn't be criticizing it. You wouldn't have even heard these supposed toxic chuds if you just turned off the monitor and went to touch some grass. In other news, Monument Valley Studio CEO said, "We've been a little bit too romantic about the idea that we should have employees and give people long-term job security. I would love to have job security, but this is a mobile game studio." Yeah, job security in mobile game studios. Oh, speaking of which, they talked to game developer at London Games after they said they would pivot away from mobile since the platform cannot offer a solid base to build a long-term business around. For some context before we get into the main part of the quote, they did port their games to PC and console, which sold decently, but they weren't inexpensive. They did learn with the ports that an audience does exist for PC and console. Now, for the main quote, "We've been a little bit too romantic about the idea that we should have employees and give people a long-term job security. I think that got us into a place where, reaching the heights of Monument Valley 3, contractors were always a relatively low percentage of our employee base. I think that's something we're looking to change going forward. I think going forward, we'll see that we've got a core team and any growth will come through contractors, which is something I hate about the industry. I've been in the industry for 20 years, and those of us who joined in the early 2000s, we had it very good. You want to be able to give that kind of stability, but I think that's a shift in how we want to work with people going forward." And to wrap up the quickfire segment, Far Far West broke the TOS on Steam. What they did is specifically having an NPC ask players to leave a review for their game. You can see in the TOS, it clearly states to not ask customers to review your product from within your application. They did push a hotfix, which did change the NPC in question and what it says, but I don't have access to the game, so I can't confirm what it says now. One of the commenters says that it changed to, and I quote, "By decree of Gabe Newbot, all cowboys are offered a free ride to the general store. Whatever you do once you get there ain't my jurisdiction." And on that note, that'll be all for this week. Tune in next week for more Old Man Rage Said the News.